Summer is just around the corner, and if you have school-aged kids, you know you're going to have to keep them busy. So if you're still looking for an exciting summer camp experience, look no further than the YMCA. They're offering a wide range of day and overnight camps that are conveniently located in the Portland and Vancouver area, making it easy for your child to join in on the fun. They have various activities and experiences tailored to different interests and ages, and always in a safe and nurturing environment. The WISE camps are also the perfect way to keep your kids engaged, active, and learning throughout the summer months, so you don't have to hear them complaining about being bored. I was totally that kid. Oh, my poor mom. To learn more, visit ymcacw.org/camps. That's ymcacw.org/camps. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about delayed and unfinished city infrastructure projects in Montavilla. We're also looking into how parent fundraising for Portland Public Schools might be changing. And we're walking through all of Commissioner Gonzalez's surprised proposed revisions to the updated camping ban ordinance. That would make it even more punitive than the daytime camping ban, if you can believe that. Now, joining me on this week's Friday News Roundup are CityCast Director of Digital Strategy, Bryan Vance, and our very own executive producer, John Notarianni. It's Friday, April 19th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Welcome, everyone, to the Friday News Roundup. Bryan, John, thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Hey, Claudia.
Hello.
For all of our new listeners, today is a day we break down some of the biggest local stories of the week with some of the best and brightest journalists in town and or podcasters. But before we head over to the news, I like to ask our guests an opening question so you can get to know them just a little bit better. Bryan, I know you've been away. Congratulations on getting married.
Oh, thank you.
And I hope you had a great time in your honeymoon.
Yay.
Okay. While you've been away, we here have been busy creating a totally real holiday called 503 Day. Have you heard rumblings of it?
I've heard a few things. Yeah.
Okay.
503 Day is a very real holiday that we are creating. It's coming up on May 3rd, 503.
Yeah, the holiday is in celebration of Portland.
Right.
Obviously 503. And so we're trying to figure out like, okay, we're Portlanders, we live here, what would we do on a day that is all about Portland? So something we've decided that the holiday also needs is a theme song. And so we've been racking our brains trying to figure out who we could call upon to maybe compose as a little ditty. So this week's opening question is, if you could get any musician or band in the world to compose Portland's 503 Day theme song, who would it be?
I know the answer to this because I was just reading an article about it this morning. Do you know about Portland's iconic Elvis impersonator, John Schroeder?
Isn't he like getting evicted or something? Poor guy.
No.
There's a really sad story in Willamette Week about this guy who's just sort of crowned himself the Portland Elvis impersonator for decades, and he's facing eviction, which is super sad. But yeah, I just think that we got to give John Schroeder a gig, and like we'll pay him handsomely because with the deep coffers of the CityCast 503 Day war chest, let's get the Elvis impersonator to write the theme song.
There's a sarcasm filter applied there, right?
I just don't want people coming at us like, hey, I wrote your theme song. I'd like my 5K now. And it's like, we don't have any money, sir.
Yeah,
Not a lot of money in 503 Day yet.
One day. What about you, Bryan?
Okay. I just really loved hearing the story about I think it was the Kingsmen, their version of Louie Louie, which is just like a garbled, wonderful mess of a song.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if they're all still alive. I hope they are. And if they are, like, I'd love them to just sort of garble it together and just come up with an amazing theme song for 503 Day. I think that would be something we could all get behind.
I want you to know that they're very much alive.
Yeah.
They're kicking it.
I did this really annoying thing after that episode, which is I basically played their version of Louie Louie on repeat for like 2 weeks.
Yes.
Anytime I was listening to music was just like that song because it just like popped back into my head and I couldn't get it out. So,
Oh, awesome.
yeah, them. That's who I would pick.
Okay, Beautiful pick, Brian. That is exactly my pick, except I would request a feature from the Unipiper.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say Unipiper, but I was like,
Dude, great minds,
how would
man.
it sound?
But together with the Kingsmen,
yeah, that'd be really
some
cool.
kind of 503 song, you know? I mean, it could just be as simple as like 503. 503, 503, you know, or
yeah. Oh, no, this sounds great.
or something else. Well, if you're a musician or in a band and want to submit your own version of a 503 day theme song, please send it over to portland@citycast.fm because we're taking all submissions. What's a good deadline, John?
April 26th.
April 26th. You have until then. Throw us your 503 day theme song. I'd love to hear it. Guys, thank you. Thank you for answering my opening question. Excellent answers, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
But before I hand things over to Brian, I wanted to make a quick correction of something we mentioned in our April guide. So yesterday, as nobody knows, it was my dog's birthday. And we celebrated by taking her to Victoria Bar and getting her a pupper supper. And that's a $6 meal you can buy for your dog to enjoy along with your dinner. It was adorable. I have pictures. I'll share them with you later. Anyhow, walking distance from Victoria Bar is the main Mississippi Street business district, so we walked over and decided to poke our head into the Portland Pickles Public House. It's a sports bar for fans, of our collegiate summer baseball team, the Portland Pickles, and it's a place John suggested we all check out for our April guide, as it had just opened this month, right? So one of the cool features he told us about was that they were going to have hot dogs from different MLB stadiums like Dodger Dogs and Fenway Franks, so I thought that's a special way to end cap Lola's birthday. I imagine we would order a Dodger dog and then Lady and the Trampet, Just a real treat for the both of us and really anyone else watching. But I hate to report that there are no Dodger dogs or any other hot dogs from any MLB stadium because the intel was faulty. And John, I know it wasn't malicious, but you lied to me.
Fake news.
John.
Fake news media.
Wait, then what do they serve? Do they just serve pickles from around the world?
Well, I'll tell you what they serve. They serve wood fire pizza because I'm assuming they looked around and thought, what does Portland not have enough of?
Right, pizza.
And they were just like, wood fire pizza.
Yeah. You have to walk at least 70 feet from this bar to find another wood-fired pizza.
It's too far.
Oh my God.
Too far.
Well, anyways, John, you ruined a beautiful dog's birthday. That's all.
That's the intel that I had. So.
If the Portland Pickles are listening, John has a fantastic menu idea that could really set you apart.
I'm pretty sure that they put it out in their press bump about the bar. I didn't just make that up off the top of my head.
They're always lying.
So they do have some pickle themed things though, at least, right?
Yeah, they have pickle teenies, they have all that. It's awesome, but whatever.
Okay. Poor Lola though.
I know. On to the news of the week. Brian, what do you got for us?
Okay, since I am a complete homer, I'm actually coming to you today with some cool news about a development happening in my neighborhood of Montavilla. So Young Kim of Fox 12 Oregon has a story about the big park project that's about to break ground just across the street from me, actually. Berrydale Park here in Montavilla is this pretty neglected, large green space in the city. I mean, there's not a lot in the way of features there. The playground looks like it was built in maybe the 80s. There are no walking paths. There are a bunch of old baseball diamonds that haven't been used in years. But they are about to pump $5 million into renovating this park and creating a skate park of all things, which will be, I believe, one of the few skate parks east of 82nd, and just making a ton of updates to this park. And so it's a cool story about, some work happening in a part of Portland that doesn't typically get a lot of these cool, fun outdoor green spaces, and just a nice little spotlight on this. But there were a few things about the story that were maybe not 100% correct. They showed my street, for example, and they showed the potholes, the major potholes here. Those aren't being fixed. As y'all may remember, there was a huge battle about the city wanting to make me and my neighbors pay to fix 89th, Southeast 89th.
Yeah, I remember that.
Even though they own most of or at least half the land on this street, because we didn't want to all pay upwards of $20,000 each. They're not fixing the street. So there are some cool things coming to the park, but not all that was promised to the public is happening. But I am curious what y'all think of the fact that we're getting a cool skate park out here and just some much needed attention. Have either of you been to Berrydale Park before?
I have not, no. And I think we all have a sort of unintentional bias of looking towards downtown and looking towards the things that are happening in the center of the city. And it's great that your neighborhood is getting those sort of developments as well. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. So $5 million is going into this park. Mm-hmm. Are the residents paying for that as well? No. So like, why is it that like the city will pay for the park, but you have to pay for the potholes? You know, like that's the part of this that's crazy to me.
That's because of some weird laws in Oregon that basically say like the property owner is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk and the curb fronts. And that so Montavilla was not a part of Portland. For the longest time, it was not part of Portland. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, it was its own little entity. Then it was a part of unincorporated Multnomah County. And then at some point, I think in like the 80s or 70s, the city annexed Montavilla. But when Montavilla was developed, there was no requirement that the developers actually put in sidewalks and pave roads. So a lot of these roads were just gravel strips. And the city has this rule that they've stuck with, which is that they will not pay to improve those roads. The weird thing about my road, though, is it's not gravel. It is paved. It's just whoever paved it did a terrible job and didn't put curbs in and didn't put sidewalks in.
Oh, my God.
And it looks horrendous. It looks
you
like...
just have mud ditches, like, on the side of each of the roads.
Just these huge potholes. But yeah, so basically it's this whole thing of like, well, technically it's up to us to bring it up to current standards, and only then will the city step in and maintain it. Even though, again, someone paved the road at some point, and it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Someone in the city did this.
It's like when you move into a rental house and you're like, why has this light switch been painted over 400 times? But like the entire neighborhood.
It's exactly like that.
Yeah, totally.
It's exactly like that. So no, we don't pay for the park. That money, it doesn't come from the general fund. I don't fully understand how it comes, but the city has the money for it. Dan Ryan's earmarked almost $5 million for it. It was just like if we wanted to basically tag on to the work that's happening and, put sidewalks to the park. It's great that there's going to be paths in the park, but it's still dangerous to get to the park.
Yeah, they're like, good luck getting here. Once you get here, though,
there's no sidewalk.
Feel free to skate, feel free to picnic, but we're not responsible for you on the way here.
Yeah, for getting there.
What bums me out is that we pay such high property taxes in this area.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're just like, well, good luck with the potholes. You know what I mean? You're just like, no, see, that's why we pay property taxes. This is the city's HOA fund.
Basically. I think it's just an example of like how like clunky the city of Portland is. Mm-hmm. That there's just like all these different bureaus with all these different rules. And so it's great that the Parks Department is able to get the park fixed up to really invest in this park. What's annoying is that they can't then work with, the Department of Transportation to fix up the area infrastructure, that they have these archaic rules that are like, no, each individual homeowner has to opt into a local improvement district and agree to pay, $20,000. Like, it's just not a great situation.
And it's not lost on me that part of this park is a skate park. Like, how do you build a skate park? You like pour a bunch of concrete.
Yeah.
Yes. You should just stand outside with like $40 and just be like, hey man,
that's a good idea.
Dump a little bit over here.
Just bring the hey, you have a little extra. How about you? I'll even make the mold for you. Like, I have some timber. I can make like a little sidewalk mold. You just do this.
Do you ever feel like Montavilla is like the last neighborhood that gets looked down? Because I feel like a lot of neighborhoods feel like that. And I think when Peabot had the March Madness pothole madness, and they focused a lot of their efforts on 82nd because people on the east side have been like, hey, 82nd historically ignored.
Oh, that road's terrible.
Yeah. We got some emails from some of your neighbors. Yeah. Somebody wrote, so I live in Montavilla, and early last summer we had the only crosswalk on Stark Street. That's where, the core business area, taken out to have curb cuts installed. Now, curb cuts are fantastic, and we're so happy to have them, but it's now 9 months later, and this was in March when this was written, and we still don't have a crosswalk. There's a start of infrastructure, but no lines, and 2 lanes of cars are less inclined to stop when there aren't any lines. This is a very pedestrian-heavy part of the street. That would be an issue in itself, except there's also just the start of a crosswalk 1 block over on Washington, and sign and flashers that haven't actually been connected.
Yeah.
Again, no lines. And it's the same deal on the other side of Montavilla on Gleason and 78th, an intersection where someone was killed by a driver a few years back. Is the city just giving up on painting crosswalks, or is this just a Montavilla issue? Like, why is this infrastructure being torn down and then replaced by like nothing? And then, like lengthy, unsafe, like what's going on? Signed, a lady who wants to grab a quick drink at Tinker Tavern while waiting in line for brunch across the street at Redwood. Bryan.
Tinker Tavern. Okay, yes. This is right at Tinker Tavern. Mm-hmm. Tinker Tavern's amazing. It was like the only place in the entire Montavilla neighborhood that was open when we had the ice storm. And it felt like everyone in East Portland was there.
That's your Slims. Yeah.
But yeah, it's my Slims. It's like I go there all the time. So I reached out to Jacob from Montavilla News. Another thing that we have in Montavilla is our own news outlet, which focuses just on news here. It's a one-man operation. It's awesome. Because he reported on this back in January when they installed these flashers. And I was like, what is going on? The city only works with 2 contractors who can do the striping of crosswalks. Because of that, there's scheduling conflicts. Also, because it's Oregon and it rains, they can't stripe until they get a big enough chunk of dry weather, which means because they only have 2 contractors who are authorized to do this, and they only have a limited amount of time that they can do this, there's a huge backlog of these stripings that need to happen.
That's so annoying.
So they did all this work back in like January or even December, I think, some of it, and aren't going to get to this until sometime this summer. So basically we have these flashers, we have these cool curb ramps, but they got rid of any striping in the road. That's not coming back. And they're not going to turn on the flashers until they do the striping. So right now, good luck crossing those streets. You're crossing Washington and Stark. They're both one ways. People drive way too fast down both of them because the speed limits are like 30 in some areas. On Stark, it's technically 20. Almost no one follows that. There's no safe way to cross except at 82nd. Which, yeah, it's only a few blocks up, but this is also a neighborhood greenway. Like, it's designated as a place for cyclists to cross. And they have another batch of these a little bit further up on Washington and like, I want to say like 86, that it's the same thing. Like, they put in the curb cuts, they installed these flashers, they're not turned on, and there's no timeline for when they will be turned on. Mm-hmm. And by the way, they don't have any markings over it saying that it's not on either. So you don't know as a pedestrian that it doesn't work. So you're just pushing it and you're like, what is happening? Like, nothing's happening.
I'm sorry, but that's the worst detail of the story right now.
It's so ridiculous. Cover it up or something. Like,
oh man. Well, Bryan, thank you for doing that legwork for us. And for that listener, thank you for finding out what's going on there. But let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, more headlines of the week.
Families have a lot going on. Let Ollie help manage the mental load with new cognitive help supplements for everyone 4 and up, like delicious Lolly Focus Pops or Lolly Mellow Pops for kids. And for parents, try 3 new Brainy Chews to help you focus, chill out, or get energized. Find these cognitive health buddies for the whole fam at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Okay, John, what are you looking at this week?
Yeah, I'm talking about schools, and I'm talking about the crazy and labyrinthian and forever ongoing debates about how we pay for schools in Portland. This is on the back of a lot of really brilliant reporting by Julia Silverman over at the Oregonian. I think the big headline here is we might be about to change how school funding works in Portland. In a small way, but something that has been really, really contentious for years and years. So here's the context. Like, after the teachers' strike that we had last year, it became super clear that school districts, both in Portland and across the state, just need more funding. They have had sort of record budget allocations from the state, but it's still not nearly enough to cover what the expenses are of operating a modern school system. And Portland Public Schools is looking at a $30 million budget hole for the next school year. And so how do we pay for schools? Well, a part of it is that parents are basically allowed to privately fundraise to pay for their kids' schools, right? Like, let's say a group of parents get together, want to do a crazy walkathon or a very giant, large-scale bake sale. They can do that, and then a good chunk of that money will go towards the school that they prefer. This is the Local School Foundations program. Parents can sort of set up these individual nonprofits at their schools and raise money. Of course, when you do something like this, there's a lot of concerns of wait,
right.
Now the individual schools have become unequal. And surprise, surprise, the schools where they have the most affluent communities end up with the most money out of this program. There are sort of rules in place to sort of prevent some of that. Like after a local school foundation raises about $10,000, a third of the money goes into like a district-wide fund and then gets distributed across all of the school districts. And, this is a lot of money. They raised like $2.5 million across the district in 2022-2023 school year. But, there are like a couple schools that like are bringing in enough money to actually like hire extra teachers. So people have been hammering on this idea for years, trying to find a way to change this, to make it more equitable, to make it more fair. It's been like the better part of a decade that this debate keeps coming up, but it's just really, really hard for people to find an agreement because, of course, every stakeholder in the district sort of has a different idea of what their individual schools need, and it's just kept falling apart after a lot of people really pushing to make it happen. Well, it looks like this finally could change because of a new plan that's being backed by Julia Brim Edwards. You might know that name as a Multnomah County commissioner, but is also a school board member. And so with this new plan,
she's busy.
She busy.
Part of me's like, can you do that? That seems like, I don't know why.
I didn't realize you could do that.
I know.
But
she's doing both. And she's got this new plan where like anything above $20,000 is just going to go to a straight district-wide fund. There's no more like prioritizing the money towards schools that already have more money. And I should say that there is like a complication here because of like the way that school funding works. There is a different allocation depending on like the tax base of a neighborhood. So it's not just like this is the only way that school funding is differentiated. I just want to say that before people sort of call me out of being like, it's not that simple. It's not that simple.
It's never that simple.
There are a lot of questions of if this does go through, like what it's going to mean. Like there's a lot of concern that a bunch of parents are just going to be like, screw it. If this money isn't going to my child's school, then I don't want to put the work in to make it happen. But it does look like this has a good shot of going through. There's 8 people on the board. Brim Edwards is one of them. By Julia Silverman's reporting, there's 4 people that are already in favor in this. So the proposal is going to go before the full school board for a final vote in a couple weeks. But it could be moving Portland towards this change that is like actually the way that almost all of the other districts in the state fund schools. If there are these sort of local fundraisers, they go into a district-wide fund as opposed to being directed just towards like the individual school that a parent prefers. So what do you guys think?
I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. I understand why some people are going to be upset about it, but if they actually look at the bigger picture, it's more fair, it's more equitable. The way that we fund schools in America is always kind of inherently unequal because it is based on local property taxes. So the richer suburbs tend to have better schools and better funded schools than, cities. That's just a reality of America.
Yeah.
But, kudos to Julia Brim Edwards for seeing inequitable part of the way that school funding works in Portland and trying to fix it. It sounds like she's actually been trying to fix this for a while. So kudos to her for sticking with it. I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, but systemic change is supposed to piss people off. It's not supposed to be comfortable. And the people who are upset are the ones who currently benefit from the status quo. Yeah.
I found the back and forth between some of the like voices that are in favor of this versus the voices that are opposed to this change really interesting. So there is a group called Reform PPS Funding that sort of framed it this way in an op-ed recently. If a private donor said, we're going to give PPS $4 million, but we'll only give it to you if $3 million of it goes to the wealthiest communities and like $1 million is then shared by the rest of the schools. Like, that would be insane.
Yeah, people would be outraged.
In a sense, that is how this program is working for some schools. But then on the other side, there's a lot of people that are saying like, look, like we do need more funding. We do need it to be more equitable, but like to just completely tank this program, like we are going to be cutting a really important revenue stream for a couple schools that are high performing, and like there isn't anything to back it up. Like that money just doesn't go into the school system, and like we know that this system needs reform, but this isn't the way to do it. It's just going to like hurt higher performing schools to make lower performing schools feel better, which like you know, I can understand that argument.
So my hot take is that, like, I don't have a kid. I don't know much about public schools. So I'm just like, my name is Paul, and this is between y'all. Just let me know when you need money for my property taxes. I will pay them. You figure out how you're going to spend it. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I got nothing,
Right.
no skin in the game. And like, I would feel silly saying either way. Like, someone smarter will figure this out. Just tell me how much I pay. Just tell me what my check amounts to. Do you know what I mean? And I will pay. That's all I'm saying.
Claudia's just like smoking on the porch. Go get them, kiddos. Go learn.
I know. What chocolate bar do I have to buy? I'll buy both of them. I don't care. Come
Just
over.
stay off my yard on your way home.
It's true. I don't like you on my yard. Well, John, thank you so much for putting that much effort into like explaining this. Something like it feels pretty dense. John gave me the 2 articles to read, and both of them, I was just like, I don't know what this means. These are words that I'm not.
A lot of
There was levies,
complex jargon.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't know, man. I'll just catch you on the flip side. And then I took my skateboard and I went down a ramp. Sorry.
Because Claudia is actually 17 years old.
Woo! Well, my story this week is a follow-up of sorts to a midweek roundup conversation we had last week. John, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
You might remember I talked about the city's new proposed scaled-back camping ban ordinance that would only outlaw camping when shelter is not available or accessible. And it would reduce the penalty that it had from 30 days in jail sorry, it's just so ridiculous, to only a week. And there would be options for diversion, of course. Now, I'm calling that the more chill camping ban. It's wearing sunglasses, you know? So this would replace the stricter, legally challenged, controversial daytime camping ban Mayor Wheeler enacted last June. And we all say enacted with quotation marks because...
Yeah, it never went into
practice. Yeah. So in that episode that I'm referring to, we'll link it to our show notes. I went a bit deeper into the history of these types of camping bans and all the reasons they've been hard to enforce. But just this week, Oregonian reporter Shane Dixon Kavanaugh, I will have to say a solid fave around here, published a story on how Commissioner Renee Gonzalez is once again annoying everyone he works with. Now, Gonzalez has proposed a new camping ban that would immediately ban homeless camping citywide. So not just daytime restrictions, not just it's just citywide, and then substantially increase fines and jail time for violations, meaning that he's like, cool, I'm glad that we all agreed on this like new chill camping ban and we're ready to vote on it, possibly even have people come in and talk about it, you know, public hearings. But check this out. What if we made a worse one?
Stricter.
Yeah. Being that the daytime camping ban appears to be like legally impossible to enact, he's just like, yeah, but see, I'm waiting for something to happen. And John, you know what Gonzalez might be thinking, you know, what's going to happen that would make his new measure float, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about it just a little bit?
Yeah, I can do like a real quick once over. I mean, there's like a couple cases that are going through the courts, but there's a big one out of Grants Pass in Oregon that is going through before the Supreme Court, I believe within the next week or so. And I should note, I'm hearing my next door neighbor mowing his lawn. What up, Mike? Sorry if that's coming through. But this court case could sort of change the national picture for homeless bans. Like it basically could create a federal mandate that gives municipalities everywhere a lot more teeth to be able to criminalize homelessness, not just in Oregon, but across the whole country. So we're going to be hearing about that from the Supreme Court quite soon.
Yeah, and Gonzalez is banking that soon cities will be allowed to make homeless illegal, which currently it is not. So before I share some details of what Gonzalez is proposing and how some members in city council are reacting, what do you guys think?
It's ridiculous. Like, I think the way you put it is really, you know, Renee may not like it, but it's true. It's like, oh, here's just another way to just like annoy everyone and derail everything. I will say, everyone with an asterisk, Dan Ryan seems to like get along with anything Renee Gonzalez does anymore and is like, oh yeah, this is great.
Did you note that he said, yeah, I'm into this? Because I didn't read that anywhere.
I don't know that this particular one, there's another thing that Renee Gonzalez is proposing that's sort of related to this.
Okay.
He wants to put all future policymaking around homelessness directly in the hands of the new mayor completely taking it out of the hands of the city council, who is supposed to be the one who enacts legislation.
Yeah. So what Bryan was saying was that not only does Gonzalez want to immediately ban all homelessness in our city, his proposal would also allow Portland's mayor to have executive power over any rules relating to the camping restrictions on public property, meaning no new addendums, tweaks would need to be floated by city council. And just a reminder that Gonzalez is running for mayor. So are you saying that Commissioner Dan Ryan was just like, yeah, boy, to that?
Basically, that's what I'm reading.
God, he's such a flavor flav for Gonzalez.
Really, he is. I mean, it's clear that he's thinking about his long-term working relationship with who I'm guessing he expects will be the next mayor.
He's just like, this is my guy. This is my horse. I'm betting on this horse. All right. Basically, this Tuesday, everyone on City Hall was like, great work, guys, with the super chill camping ban. Let's put a pin on this. Discuss it later this week. And Wheeler had gotten council to agree to hold a public hearing so they could vote on this new chill camping ban. So that hearing was planned out. Everyone was supposedly behind the revisions and were on board to vote it in even after a public hearing. That was included Gonzalez, by the way. Everybody was like, yeah, boy, yeah, let's go. But then several hours after the meeting where everyone went back to their office, a draft of Gonzalez's proposed changes were circulated to all the council members. That happened this Tuesday afternoon. And his draft had all the changes that I previously mentioned. The mayor gets to do whatever they want regarding the new rules, more strict, more punitive. But this is what's crazy is that no one got a heads up. So everybody was just like, are we in crazy town right now? Like, people were just feeling like really flustered because they're just like, we just talked about this.
Yeah, and he didn't bring it up there.
You looked at my face and you said, ready to roll, So Commissioner Rubio, who is also running for mayor, told the Oregonian, we had a revised camping policy that struck the right balance, that was ready for council consideration. Then yesterday, Commissioner Gonzalez put a different approach on the table that is inhumane and will no doubt be immediately legally challenged, criminalizes homelessness without an opportunity to choose a path toward treatment, and that's not what Portlanders want. Portlanders want accountability with compassion in the form of real addiction and mental health treatment choices. And here's the deal. Should the High Court, as John mentioned, give cities more latitude to criminalize homelessness, Gonzalez's proposal would automatically increase the penalties for improper camping to a fine of up to $500 and up to a year in jail.
Renee doesn't play well with others.
Doesn't that just feel like some weird red state trigger law shit?
Yeah. It feels like all the stuff that happened with Roe versus Wade, where these states were like, well, we think it's going to be overturned, so let's go ahead and pass these really punitive measures. Mm-hmm. And then, boom, it happened. But it's like the super restrict things, I think Carmen Rubio nailed it. That's not what most Portlanders want. But even if there are a group of Portlanders who want it, this isn't the way you do it. Like, that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
You don't undo the will of the people who voted for this new form of government, which, by the way, he's also tried to undo in other ways in the past,
right?
And give the mayor strong arm powers that they specifically were not allotted by the people. You don't say one thing to all of your council members that you're going along with this measure, and then immediately, hours later, throw a wrench into it. Like, this is not an efficient way to govern, and it makes me really question his ability to be a lawmaker, to be a council member, to be a mayor. Like, clearly he does not understand how to do these roles in an efficient way. He wants to be, and I'm sorry if this is a little harsh, it's clear he wants to be a dictator. He wants to be the person who gets to make all rules. He gets to decide all things. That is not how it works. That is not what we've wanted in Portland. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I guess I will just end by saying, Renee and your team, I emailed you yesterday. We would love to have you on CityCast Portland. Get back at me.
Yeah, come on the show, Gonzalez. We'd love to have you on. But before we wrap up, I just wanted to share a piece of good news because I know my story was frustrating, to say the least, and I don't want to just like drop a bomb and then walk away. You might remember we had Andy Mendenhall, the president of Central City Concern, on earlier this year to talk about all the progress happening, and Central City Concern is one of the county county's largest housing and homeless service providers. Now, this week they unveiled 2 mobile health care vans that are providing unhoused Portlanders with wound care, physical exams, infectious disease screening, vaccines, and medication management. And what's amazing is they're traveling to where they're needed. So there won't be any confusion on like how to access care or like any kind of bottleneck, you know? But to me, I'm like, that's what I feel like the general Portlander wants, you know, is
Well, it's a solution.
it's a solution. As opposed to just everything else is like, oh, we're just going to like, let's talk about the physics, the physicality of people living on the street. Are we just going to get a big eraser and erase them? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You can't, they exist. You can't like put them all in jail with what resource? None of this makes sense.
I think that's becoming the Claudia slogan. None of this makes sense.
It's loony.
Well, it's the out of sight, out of mind mentality that because if you don't see it, it must not be a problem. But that's just not reality. Like homelessness existed a long time ago. It continues to exist, and just like locking everyone up doesn't actually solve the issues. This is something that can actually help. Like,
I feel like Dan Ryan would just jump on board with this if we told him he could build a skate park.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He'll build a skate park anywhere, it sounds
The
like.
villages will have a skate park, Dan.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool. Chill camping ordinance in effect. Skate parks for everyone. That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. Our executive producer is John Notarianni. Our producers this week were Julia Fiaioni, Lizzie Goldsmith, and Natalie Rivera. Our newsletter editor is Rachel Monahan, and our host is me, Claudia Meza. Original music by Jenny Conley and Stephen Drizos. Additional music by Epidemic Sound and All the Kimonos. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.